The Young and the Restless spoilers. Jack seemed to realize he had some information from the outside, and he heard the sound of police boats, but he couldn't call out because it was too noisy outside. Outside the thick glass, the endless gray expanse of the Atlantic, or perhaps the Pacific, he had lost all sense of geography days ago, rolled nauseatingly. Someone seemed to be holding Jack captive and controlling him, telling him to shut up, that no one would hear him. Jack was furious and shouted, "I'll kill you if you get out of here." Jack thought he would soon escape, fearing nothing. Patty kept reassuring Jack, saying he would go to Spain and never return to Genoa, that it was too complicated there. She looked older, the wrinkles of madness deeper around her eyes, but the illusion remained as fresh as an open wound. "Victor is using you, Patty," Jack pleaded, stepping closer though careful not to invade her personal space. "He doesn't care about you. He's using you to hurt me, to hurt my family. When this is over, he'll discard you like he's done with everyone else." "He gave me a purpose in life," Patty cried, clutching the stuffed animal to her chest. "He knew I loved you, Jack. He knew I was the only one who could protect you from yourself." She paced back and forth in the small room, her murmurs gradually turning into incoherent whispers of kitten and bad guys. Jack slumped to the edge of the bed, a feeling of defeat washing over him. He felt trapped in a suspended prison, guarded by a woman who had lost her sanity decades ago, orchestrated by a man consumed by boundless hatred. He thought of Diane. He thought of Kyle. The helplessness weighed heavily on him, suffocating his breath. Diane was terrified as she lost more and more information about Jack. Victor had switched off all his phones and never answered calls. Diane knew Victor was asking too much. Kyle Abbott said they had to tell the secret. They couldn't keep it. Victor's weakness was Adam. "Nothing," he snapped, throwing the phone onto the sofa. "The private detectives, the connections at the State Department, the help I asked of the Gotham Police Department, nothing. It's as if he vanished into thin air." Diane Jenkins Abbott yelled, saying everything was under control. She looked at her son, seeing the utter terror in his eyes. Kyle was strong, but he was breaking down. Victor's silence was terrifying. They had expected a ransom demand, a mockery, something, but there was only silence. "Victor is gloating," Kyle said, his voice trembling with anger. "He's keeping us on edge. He's probably watching us right now." "We have to be smart, Kyle," Diane said, though her voice sounded empty. "We can't let him get away with it." Diane called Adam over and she was forced to tell him the truth. "Listen carefully. Jack is your biological father and Hope Newman is your biological mother. This secret will affect your future in the Newman family, but I have to tell you." Adam was stunned. He had always had a special connection with Jack and didn't know what the relationship was and how he knew. It was terrible. "Dad," Adam yelled, saying he would save him. "What about Victor? He suffered once again from betrayal. Wasn't Adam's son?" "Not everyone," Diane murmured. She walked to the hallway, away from Kyle's prying eyes, and dialed a number she had memorized years ago but never dared to use. The line rang once, twice. "This is Adam." The voice was clipped, impatient. "Adam, it's Diane," she said, cutting through the pleasantries. There was a pause. "Diane, if this is about Jack, I've already told Kyle. I don't know where Victor has him. He's shut me out." "I know you don't know," Diane said, her hand gripping the phone so tight her knuckles ached. "But you need to, and you need to know why." "Why? Because Victor is a megalomaniac. It's not complicated." "It is," Diane whispered, glancing back toward the living room to ensure Kyle wasn't listening. "It is more complicated than you can possibly imagine. I need to see you, now, alone." "I'm busy, Diane." "Adam, listen to me," she hissed, her voice dropping to a low, intense register. "This isn't about Jack. This is about you. It's about who you are. It's about the lie you've lived your entire life." The silence on the other end was heavy, pregnant with a sudden dawning unease. "Meet me at Chancellor Park. The bridge. 20 minutes, Adam said, and the line went dead.
The park was shrouded in the early evening mist, the street lamps casting long, distorted shadows across the wet pavement. Adam Newman stood by the stone railing of the bridge, the collar of his coat turned up against the chill. He smoked a cigarette, a habit he thought he'd kicked, watching the dark water of the creek swirl below. He was on edge. Victor's erratic behavior, the undeniable cruelty of snatching Jack, it gnawed at him. He had always known his father was ruthless, but this felt different. It felt personal in a way that transcended business. And now Diane, a woman he tolerated at best, was summoning him with cryptic threats about his identity. He heard the click of heels on the pavement and turned. Diane emerged from the fog, wrapped in a trench coat, her face pale but her eyes burning with a terrifying intensity. You came, she said, stopping a few feet away. You sounded like you were about to jump off a ledge, Adam replied, flicking the cigarette into the water. Talk. What is this lie I've lived? Diane took a breath, the cold air filling her lungs. She had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her nightmares, always praying she would never have to live it. But looking at Adam, seeing the sharp jawline, the intensity in his eyes that mirrored Jack's so perfectly, not Victor's, she knew she was doing the right thing. Victor has... Jack, Diane started, her voice shaking slightly. He's holding him because he hates him. We all know that. But the hatred, it's not just about business. It's not just about Nikki. It's about you. Adam frowned. Victor treats me like a pawn, Diane. I'm not the center of his universe. You are the center of his insecurity, Diane corrected. She stepped closer, closing the distance between them. Adam, look at me. Really look at me. Why do you think you've always felt like an outsider in that family? Why do you think you and Jack have always had this pull toward each other, this unexplainable connection, even when you were enemies? Because Jack was kind to me when Victor wasn't, Adam dismissed, though a flicker of doubt crossed his face. Get to the point. The point is, Diane said the words catching in her throat before she forced them out. Victor Newman is not your father. Adam froze. The world seemed to stop spinning. The sounds of the city faded into a dull roar. He stared at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for the manipulation. You're lying. That's insane. The DNA tests, the history fabricated Diane cut in. All of it. A carefully constructed wall of lies built by the 3 people who loved you most and feared Victor most. 3 people. Hope Diane whispered the name like a prayer. Nikki and Jack. Adam took a step back, stumbling slightly as if physically struck. My mother, you're saying my mother lied to me. She did it to save you, Diane pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. Hope knew what Victor was. She saw the darkness in him. When she found out she was pregnant, she was terrified. She knew that if the child was Victor's, he would own you. He would corrupt you. But she had been with Jack. It was a brief moment, a time when they both needed comfort. But it happened. Adam shook his head violently. No, this is sick. You're making this up to get me to turn on Victor. I am telling you the truth, Diane cried out, grabbing his arm. Jack is your father, Adam. Jack Abbott is your biological father. When Hope found out, she went to Nikki. Can you imagine that? She trusted Nikki because she knew Nikki understood the monster Victor could be. And Jack knew. He agreed to let you go. He agreed to let Victor claim you, to let Hope take you to Kansas, because they knew it was the only way to keep you safe from Victor's toxic influence in Genoa City. They thought if you were raised as a Newman but far away, you might stand a chance. But if Victor knew you were an Abbott, he would have destroyed you. He would have used you as a weapon against Jack from the day you were born. Adam pulled his arm away, breathing hard. His mind was racing, replaying decades of memories. The way Jack looked at him, the way Victor treated him, always with a specific kind of disdain, a specific kind of ownership that felt more like a conqueror than a father. The way he had always felt more at peace in the Abbott home than the ranch. Nikki. Adam rasped. Nikki knows. She helped orchestrate it. Diane confirmed. She and Jack swore a pact to protect you, to protect Hope's peace. They sacrificed their own claim to you to keep you safe. Diane reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, weathered envelope. Jack gave me this years ago. It's a letter from Hope to him, confirming it. He told me to burn it, but I couldn't. I kept it for a day like this. Adam took the envelope with trembling fingers. He recognized the handwriting immediately, the looping script of his mother. He didn't need to read it to know Diane was telling the truth. He could feel it in his bones. The missing piece of his soul that had never quite fit into the Newman puzzle suddenly snapped into place. He wasn't a broken Newman. He was an Abbott. He looked up at Diane, his eyes dark with a mixture of shock and a rising volcanic fury. Victor, does he know? I don't think so, Diane said. Or maybe he suspects. Maybe that's why he hates Jack so much. But Adam, right now, the man who raised you, the man who claims to be your father, is holding your Times, Real Times father, captive. He is torturing the man who gave you up just to keep you safe. The realization hit Adam like a physical blow. Victor wasn't just a rival, he was a predator. He had taken everything from Adam, his childhood, his autonomy, and now he was trying to kill the only true father figure Adam had ever really known, the man whose blood actually ran in his veins. He has my father, Adam, whispered the words tasting like ash. He has Jack. He's going to kill him, Adam, Diane said, her voice breaking, unless you stop him. You're the only one who can. Adam crushed the letter in his fist. The confusion in his eyes vanished, replaced by a cold, deadly clarity. The Adam Newman who sought Victor's approval was dead. In his place stood Adam Abbott, and he was ready to go to war. Where is he, Adam asked, his voice low and dangerous. We don't know, but Victor does. Go home, Diane, Adam said, turning on his heel. Wait for my call. Adam, what are you going to do? Adam paused, looking back over his shoulder. The silhouette of the Newman Tower loomed in the distance, a monolith of power and deceit. I'm going to ask my father for the truth, Adam said, and then I'm going to break him. The Newman Ranch was quiet, a fortress of solitude built on secrets. Victor Newman sat in his leather armchair, a glass of tequila in hand, staring into the roaring fire. He felt a grim satisfaction. Jack was out of the way. The Abbotts were scrambling. Soon Chancellor would be back where it belonged. The heavy oak doors of the study burst open with a crash that echoed through the house.
Victor didn't flinch. He took a slow sip of his drink. I don't recall inviting you, Adam, and you know I detest interruptions.
Adam stormed into the room, his presence filling the space with a kinetic energy that made the air crackle. He didn't stop until he was standing directly over Victor, his chest heaving. Where is he? Adam demanded.
Victor raised an eyebrow. If you are referring to Jack Abbott, I have already told you. That is none of your concern. You should focus on your own. Don't, Adam roared, slamming his hand down on the desk, rattling the crystal decanter. Don't you dare speak to me about concern or family or loyalty. Not anymore. Victor set his glass down slowly. He stood up, drawing himself up to his full height, his eyes narrowing. You are forgetting who you are talking to, son. I'm not your son, Adam spat the words out, venom dripping from every syllable. Victor paused a flicker of genuine confusion, crossing his face before his mask of indifference slid back in place. You are upset. You are emotional. Go home, Adam. We will discuss this when you are sober. I have never been more sober in my life, Adam said, his voice dropping to a terrifying whisper. I know Victor. I know everything. I know about hope. I know about the lie. I know that Jack Abbott is my father. The silence that followed was absolute. The fire crackled, the only sound in a room where the oxygen seemed to have evaporated. Victor stared at Adam, his face unreadable, a stone statue of a man whose world had just fractured. Who told you this filth? Victor asked quietly. It doesn't matter, Adam countered, stepping closer, invading Victor's space. What matters is that you spent my entire life manipulating me, molding me, torturing me, all while the man who actually created me was right there. You stole me, Victor. You stole a son from a father, and you stole a father from a son. I gave you a name, Victor barked, his composure cracking. I gave you a legacy. I made you a Newman. Jack Abbott is a weakling. He would have made you soft. I made you strong. You made me a monster, Adam screamed back. You made me in your image because you couldn't stand the thought that something of yours wasn't actually yours, and now you have him. You have my father locked away somewhere like an animal. Adam grabbed the lapels of Victor's jacket, shoving the older man back against the desk. It was a violation of the physical hierarchy that had existed between them for decades. You are going to tell me where he is, Adam snarled, his face inches from Victor's. Right now, or I swear to God I will tear this company, this ranch, and your entire legacy down brick by brick. I will expose every secret, every crime, every body you've buried. I will be the Abbott that finally destroys Victor Newman. Victor looked into Adam's eyes. He saw the rage. He saw the betrayal. But for the first time, he saw something else. He saw Jack Abbott's defiance staring back at him, fueled by the ruthless capability of a Newman. It was a terrifying combination. You think you can threaten me, Victor hissed, though his voice lacked its usual booming authority. I'm not threatening you, Victor, Adam said, releasing him with a shove of disgust. I'm promising you, this is war, and this time you're fighting both of us. Adam turned and walked to the door, stopping just before he exited. If Jack Abbott has a single scratch on him when I find him, Adam said without turning around, you won't have a son left. Not even the fake one. Adam slammed the door, the sound echoing like a gunshot signaling the beginning of the end. Victor Newman stood alone in the silence of his study, the firelight casting long dancing shadows that looked suspiciously like ghosts. For the first time in years, the great Victor Newman felt a chill that had nothing to do with the winter air. The truth was out, and the reckoning had arrived.